We're just waiting for the on-air sign to come on, then we'll commence this morning's meeting. Yeah. Okay, everyone, I was actually saying something. Okay. Morena tātou, welcome to our November council meeting. We do have a couple of apologies. I've just jumped the gun here on the agenda already. One of them will be from Councillor Willison, and the other is an apology for lateness for Councillor Dow. I'd like to move that, please. Second, Councillor Tamaki, all in favour? Okay. Can we move on to opening karakia, please, Jane? Councillor Tamaki.
Mari ora te whare ngā mihi ki te atua, ngā mihi ki te whenua, he whakaro pai ki ngā tangata kutua, kei noi tātou. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kina kina ki tā, kia mā tarakara ki tai. I hea kina te atākura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei, mauri ora.
Thank you. Now, I've just been thrown in the deep end. I threw myself in the deep end for the words of wisdom. So I came up with something really quick here, and it is: a mistake that makes you humble is better than achievement that makes you arrogant. And just follow up with a joke that was next to it. Dad, I'm considering a career in organised crime, government or private sector. There's no late items in today's agenda. Any councillors need to do or feel they should declare a conflict of interest in today's agenda? Okay, thank you. Confirmation of minutes of the 17th of October, 31st of October 2023. I'd like to move that they be accepted, please. Second, Councillor Tamaki, all in favour? No corrections in those minutes. Thank you, everyone. Receipt of minutes, which was committed. Oh, cancelled. Okay, thank you. No one in the public forum. There's you to us in the public forum. No, so good. My verbal report, which is what I've been up to, supposed to say last month. Following our last council meeting on Thursday, the 19th of October, we had an iwi leaders, Mayor's Hui at the Waikato Regional Council. Following that, Mayor's Task Force Jobs Core Group meeting in Wellington on Friday the 20th. The 24th and 26th to 26th we had workshops, an informatics presentation and risk and assurance, future for local government, Hui on the 30th, workshop and council meetings on the 31st, MTFJ MSD meeting on Wednesday the 1st of November, and that was about the discussion around continued funding for Mayor's Task Force jobs across the country, which MSD is still very passionate about. So that was a really positive meeting with them. We had future for local government Hui the next day, followed by rural, provincial on Friday the 3rd, and then I was still down in Wellington on the Saturday for the last Tui Awana of the year. I went down the following week to welcome the new manager of Te Whare Awhina. Then we had a Ngati Te Wehe presentation here on the 7th, another future for local government advisory meeting on the 9th, followed by Waikato Regional Airport AGM meeting, which I attended with Graham. Last week I was out at Kawhia, or close to Kawhia, for filming of Kawhia at Wester Park, and the two young guys that have been employed there over the last 6 months. It was really cool. So I had, actually, I think it was the first time I've actually had a raw oyster out of Kawhia. So that was good. Big plop ball, so that's great. Workshop on the 15th, Zone 2 at Whakatane on Friday, and then future for local government advisory group meeting on the 20th, and there'll be more to follow that meeting for where the advisory group is taking the future for local government recommendations and what we've that'll come to council very soon. Any questions? If not, I'd like my report to be received, please. Second, Councillor Prendergast, all in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Move on to item 94, meeting dates for 2024. Wait,
Koutou. Kaia's name's on this item, but she's busy. So I'll do this one. So we're required to bring meeting dates to you before the end of the year for the next year. So this report just outlines the proposed meeting schedule. So we've included an appendix that gives you the public holiday dates as well, and we've tried to steer clear of them. We have also moved, or we're proposing that instead of the third Tuesday of the month, that council meets on the fourth Tuesday of the month. So this is to allow enough time for community boards and other subcommittees or committees of councils to meet, and for us to get minutes ready and recommendations to you in a timely manner. So we've tried to structure the other meetings around that as well. What other things? Oh, elected member workshop days. So you asked, and we have given you an idea of when we might have workshops, which have been on the kind of alternate fortnight to the council meeting. Now, just whether, when the long-term plan is concluded, just how many workshops we'll need in the second half of the year, we don't know, but let's put placeholders in, because we're still going to be working on feasibility studies, concept plans, big projects. So I think it's really prudent for us to have those workshops in there as well. We've liaised with the chair, this is a royal we, have liaised with the chairs and particularly risk and assurance, Peter Stubbs, to make sure that he is available on those dates proposed for risk and assurance as well. But they depend on the availability of our auditors, so they may need to be shifted as well. So yeah, just happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Tanya. Fairly comprehensive list of dates, and I'm sure you haven't all locked them already into your calendars, but any questions around the timing of those dates? Certainly was noted the shift was to the final Tuesday. Yeah. Yes, Councillor Jeffries.
I was just probably stating the obvious, but I guess the meeting dates for the community boards will just go directly to the community boards. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have a staff recommendation in front of us that the Ōtorohanga District Council adopt the following meeting schedule for 2024 to provide the Ōtorohanga District community certainty of the timing to engage and provide input into the matters contained in the agendas. Seconded, Councillor Williams, seconded Councillor Christensen. All in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. And Kaya, obviously, fair bit of work there. Item 95, decision to renew the waste management and minimisation plan 2018 to 24. Jared, welcome. I'm sure you've all read it in depth. Got a whole lot of burning questions.
Morning, everyone. Through you, Your Worship. As we discussed in our workshop earlier when we presented the findings of our waste assessment, we talked about this report coming to council. I'll just give you just a brief catch up for those who have forgotten. As part of the Waste Minimisation Act, we have to review our waste management and minimisation plan every 6 years. The review of that is part of the waste assessment that was carried out. And this report is to suggest that we update and renew our WMMP to follow the new MFE waste strategy. The major risk of deciding not to review it is we may lose our waste levy funding that we currently get. We would lose that because our WMMP current one will not align with the new waste strategy. We knew that was going to happen with the new strategy, and it just will allow us to align with the new strategy better, and also align our funding from the waste levy, which has to be done in conjunction with our WMMP. So we can align that to help with these new rules and regulations and use that money more wisely as well, and make sure we retain that money. Other than that, there's not really too much else to go through there. The waste assessment is there for reading, but our recommendation is to update and renew our WMP. Any questions?
Thank you, Jeffrey. Mr. Jeffries. Oh, by councillor Williams, sorry.
I actually have a few, but perhaps as we work our way through the document, but under clause 4.2, which is on page 27, I just wondered, Jared, the first bullet point, a description of collection, recycling, blah, 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 provider. What impact, and I may have missed it further on in the document, but what impact will that have on the current operations of our transfer stations? So is what we're proposing here going to have any effect on how they operate?
No, so with our current operations, all we need to add is number 5 plastics, which will align us with everything that we need to align with. But in previous workshops and that, we discussed how our recycling now goes to the new centre in Hamilton. They currently take 5s anyway, so any 5s since we're moving have been accepted anyway, and that was the major change for our transfer stations, which won't affect us.
Thank you. On page 28, 4.9, we make reference to the food scraps collection wanting to be introduced to Ōtorohanga. And I think it's mentioned further on in the document about why carp is not included in that. It's got something to do with the size of the population.
Yeah.
But I just wondered whether we could just add something in there to make it clear that why carp is not actually included in that.
So through writing a new WMP, that would be all the things we investigate in part of that. And it may be that there may be, through workshops and things, that there may be an appetite to include that as something we are allowed to do if we want to, but it's just not something that's legislated that we have to.
On page 38, under the heading Key Waste Management of Public Health Issues, this is in the document itself. Management of hazardous wastes. Again, I may have missed it, but does that include things like mold and paint, chemicals, plastic wrappings, demolition materials, all that sort of stuff?
A lot of those aren't classed as dangerous goods, but I'll just try and catch up on page memory.
Yes, sorry, on page 38. 38 of the agenda. That's what I like. Are there no patients? I'm point four, one. Yes, I just had a look at the items that were included in all the bullet points there, and it just wasn't obvious to me how we were going to deal with things like plastic wraps, demolition materials, glass, concrete, steel, that sort of stuff. Well, there's this third to last bullet point, see management of hazardous waste, and I wasn't sure whether that hazardous waste included old paint, chemicals, plastic wraps, demolition materials like glass, concrete, steel, that sort of stuff. Or whether that's covered somewhere else.
Construction and demolition is its own thing that won't be under that. Hazardous waste, paint and things will be under those, and how we deal with those.
So it does include paint and chemicals.
Yeah, they're quite a hot topic, paint tins and things like that. Yeah.
Page 43. Under the heading waste, so the levy rates by disposal facility type is one point five.
Yes.
Got that one? I just wondered the dollar values that are in that table there, are they rates per ton or are they rates per cubic meter?
Per tonne.
Per ton.
Yeah.
Page 44. Under 1.5, the ETS. Last paragraph of that section, I just wondered, are the closed refuge sites at Ōtorohanga currently emitting methane?
No, not at this stage.
So do we not have any need to purchase carbon credits?
No, not at this stage. It's not something I've looked deeply into.
Page 46. Up and down the page, it talks about curbside standardisation.
Yes.
That one? I just wondered, is it intended to provide households with different bins and different waste streams?
No, so the standardised curbside is only what we have to collect, not how we collect it at curbside. So as part of a new contract and through a WMP process, we would investigate bins versus bags and number of bins, which there is a number of different options out there and pros and cons to both all options.
The estimate of $20,000 for the repair, but there's no indication that he set up or ongoing costs. So do we not know those at this stage?
So no, so through the review, you will come out through workshops we pull out the recommendations from the waste assessment, and like in the workshop Lisa said, we can't tackle all of them. It's not feasible, but that WMP process will highlight the ones we want to tackle, and then we will set funding forward and start moving on how we're going to tackle those. But we need to know exactly which ones we want to tackle first, because it's impossible to do everything. But it's not impossible, but ratepayers may not appreciate that.
Yeah. I must admit, it was a very comprehensive report. It took me ages through this. On page 48, I just wondered there, some of the heading 156 products. 1 3 electrical and electronic products, e-waste, including batteries. Does that include lithium car batteries?
Not at this stage. Those schemes are actually run through MFE, not us as TAs.
Okay.
So that's through their schemes of priority products and how they're gonna. So that list is continually moving as they get more issues. They move higher up the list.
Page 56. The very first paragraph there, I just wonder what the relevance was of actually saying that Maori account for 26.1 of the total population. So what's the point of that? Why do we need to mention that here?
It's just part of our statistics. We show the it's all to show an overall view of our district. So it's taken through Stats NZ, and it's part of everyone's waste assessment just to show the diversity in your district as well.
Yeah, okay, it just seemed to me that it's not taken, but sort of raising Maori as a separate issue.
There's quite through that population and that through Marae and that, we also need to look at how they deal with waste as well. So it's a whole holistic view of our district and what it encompasses.
If I, through you, wish could just chip in here, I think also there's an acknowledgement of the, of Māori connection to Te Taiao and that, and the whenua, and that a lot of our waste actually still goes into landfill, into the environment. And so acknowledging, this doesn't say that, but I guess if we're mindful of the percentage of population in our district, then I think, when our opportunities to engage, and we have in the past on waste management, I think that it gives us those statistics there too.
Page 62. Overview of transfer stations. I found the stat there quite interesting that the annual tonnage that comes from the rural area, 784 tonnes, was so high compared to say Cardiff or even then for Ōtorohanga. Is there a reason for that? Why would it be so high?
They're extremely well used. We get a lot of glass, which is of course your heaviest one. And as soon as your glass numbers go up, your tonnage goes up real quick. Glass is very heavy. But as far as the reasons behind that, I couldn't tell you, sorry.
I think we just particularly good at recycling.
Yes, well, I wanted that. Thank you, Councillor. On page 63, under 3.2, hazardous waste. First bullet point there, with such as those removed from such tanks. Are we still putting our septic tanks up into our sewage ponds, or is this is clean as it goes somewhere else?
So currently we still take district septage.
Yep.
From Ōtorohanga district into our Ōtorohanga district waste or Ōtorohanga wastewater treatment plant.
So there's no intention to change that at this stage.
No.
Right. Well, thank you, councillors, for your patience. That's all I had. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I was getting a bit concerned, councillor. You're only halfway through the document.
I know, but I think to be fair too, there was a degree of repetition back in the document as well. So
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
So the first question is, when we undertake the food waste collection, where will that material end up? What's the plan for that? Do we ship it out of the district, or do we utilise it here, or do we need a facility? And if we got a facility, can we offer that facility to other councils to use? Or got a whole lot of questions.
So we're working on that at the moment. We're working closely with Waitomo at the moment to carry out some studies and look at pros and cons of all options. There is the option to process in-house. Our problem is we would probably struggle to do it on our own just for the sheer volume. You need enough volume for these plants to work, but we're working on that now and closely with Waitomo to see how we can do that jointly.
That's really good news. Yeah, I just hope we can be proactive in that space rather than show a bit of leadership. That'd be awesome. Just another question. This meeting is Council Jeffries was yes, down on page 28 at 5.1. It just says like a special community consultative procedure. I was just wondering To me, this seems very bureaucratic. I mean, we have to do this anyway. Why do we need to consult with the community? Is that, yeah, just a bit of background to that. I suppose. Is it just something we have to do legally? I mean, it's gonna have to do it anyway, so.
So if we decide to that's only if we decide to renew the WMMP. So in a lot of past times, waste was not high on the list and people chose not to review or renew, and they just basically rolled over the existing plans with such huge changes in the way the environment is now. We're having to, and as part of the act, yes, if we decide to renew it, then that then triggers the next stage, which is the consultative process. If we were to just roll it over, we wouldn't need to go out to consultation. We could just roll over the existing one. But we also, now with the changes that comes with huge risks.
Yeah, I just find that some money making venture for somebody to, that bureaucracy at its highest. So,
It can have huge rates impacts depending on the services you decide to go for and add. So I think that'll be the reason behind it. You could go to, a gold plated service and run your rates through the roof, or you can, you got to find the right ground for your community, which is why I believe they probably make us do that. So we don't sneak anything under the table. It's out there in the open for the community because there's rates impacts.
I mean, there won't be gold, but there will be a lot more plastic bins, won't there? There'll be a separate plastic bin and there'll be a big cost for that, won't there? So. Councillor,
A couple of things. What a report. Holy moly, trying to read all that. And there was lots of repetition. I was like getting tired and thinking, God, have I gone back up? Has my computer gone back up? But yeah, well, a couple of questions. I agree that we should be going out to consultation so that our public is aware that we are legislated to do some of this stuff. So there will be a cost to them. But do other councils get these guys to write their reports with all these sort of recommendations in the graphs of where all the different stations can be so that we're all on the same page? Or do they have in-house people doing it?
Some have in-house, Ōtorohanga Consulting, who we use, have done a lot, but some have done in-house and some have used other consultants as well. There's other consultants out there.
Because for me, I think for it to work across the board is that if everyone's getting the same information, but I don't know how we find that out.
So just on that, Katrina, that graph that showed, the linkages of all our areas, Ōtorohanga is trying to push that to MFE to try and get, if they can get them on board, then it filters to everyone. So they work closely with MFE on a lot of stuff. So they're trying to get that as
is there any way that we can help them get that to them because I just think it's fantastic. But if everyone's not on the same page, it's just a document.
I'm not sure what we can do. As they go through processes, part of a waste liaison group I'm a part of, which is basically from Ruapehu right through to Whakatane. A lot of the stuff comes to us. We put in submissions as a group to really push it, because us putting it as a small council doesn't have the push of us as our big group. So we all try and get on the same page there.
So that brings me to a question. If you guys have got a group, then why are we just looking at Waitomo to maybe form a collaborative approach to food waste? Why wouldn't we encompass all these small ones and go big and the best together?
You're thinking about that extra resource in the LTP, aren't you, Jared?
I'm thinking that's not even close if we're going that way. But I mean, there are some major setups already near us, which is why we are the first tranche of councils having to add food waste. We're within 150 kilometres of 2 plants already that could take that amount.
Is one working properly though?
Sorry, which one's that one?
Hamilton?
No, so the closest food waste is Hampton Downs.
Yeah, that is, yeah.
Yep, I've been through a tour through the
Okay.
facility. A lot of their fruit goes over to the kiwi fruit orchards in Ōtorohanga actually, and the other one is EcoGas in Ripperol, which I've done a tour of.
Yeah.
So those are set up and they are not, Ripperol's nowhere near capacity, so for us to set up a big one, when we look at that, you're going to be trying to pull it away from those already established ones. And
So
you've got
they're
to,
not near capacity at the moment.
no, I'm not sure about Hampton Downs, but Ripperol is not.
You, councillor Williams.
Thank you, through your worship, Chair. Just on the basis of not assuming anything, we may or may not, I presume we will, engage Eunomia to do the next step.
Yeah.
Would we be able to, I'm not sure, in the issues and evidence, I can't remember if Lisa referred to it in the workshop as to why we're looking at Queenstown and the regions down there in the evidence. Presumably we have, if you're in a group that's more local, that we can focus more on that. And
Some of that is they're further ahead than a lot of us around here. A lot of councils are where we are or just slightly ahead or just behind. That study, that evidence study had already been taken place before all this. So it was an existing study that they could use as evidence that's been done.
yeah, perhaps it was just the way that it was titled. It wasn't clear, because in some, when you're reading it, it sort of feels like you're talking about us, but then the next part of it, we're clearly not. So, but I presume that our report that we engage with is give the right decision today will be a lot more focused.
The waste assessment also covers the national data and what's happening in the national framework. Our WMMP then brings that into working of what we're going to do as a council here. So our WMMP is targeted to us, but taking into account what's happening outside as well.
Thank you, Jared. Thanks to all the councillors who asked a lot of questions, and thank you for having the answers. So, yeah, no, good report, thorough report, and obviously there's still a lot of work ahead of you yet. Sure, as we're looking to your chief executive for staff and resources. But in the meantime, we'll just focus on what's in front of us here, which is the staff recommendation. And that is that the Ōtorohanga District Council notes the November 2023 Ōtorohanga Waste Assessment is now complete. As per section of the Ōtorohanga Waste Minimisation Act 2008, B considers the Ōtorohanga Waste Management and Minimisation Plan 2018 in light of the review included in the waste assessment, and C agrees to proceed with the development of a new draft waste management and minimisation plan for the Ōtorohanga District that meets with the requirements of the Waste Minimisation Act 2008. Councillor Christensen, second Councillor Jeffries, all in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Next, Jared, appreciate the work. Moving on to item 96, capital project report for the month ending 31st of October 2023. Welcome, Robert.
Councillors, good morning. This report provides the status of 22-23 capital projects, including their progress and completion as of 30 October 2023. If I may, I'll take the report as read and hand the floor over for any questions.
Were you all on the right page? 167?
Sorry, Councillor Hughes.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Waipa Rural Waters, the reasons behind the contract being behind schedule, is this weather or other issues? The Waipa water scheme update, upgrade.
That was item,
4.7. Sorry.
I was just, the lead time on the materials from Tasman Tanks.
Okay, so that tank, those tanks are they're put together, they're not one, they're actually built as a like modular type sort of tanks, I mean.
Yeah, they're prefabricated panels, circular panels, which are knitted together on site.
What size would, so both the tanks going in will be the same size, including the
Yeah, both 400 cubic
Manufacturer
meters. Yeah, about 25 meters diameter.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So basically it was just a few issues.
Just the lead time on those tanks coming from a basically a proprietor.
So they'll be finished sort of.
Um,
Now that it's so it's, you don't envision any more problems going forward.
No, not at all.
So
All
quite-
materials are on site. So yeah, one tank's being commissioned at the moment, and the other tank's being erected as soon as that's complete.
Oh, awesome. Thank you very much.
So, I've got Jeffries and Williams, then Christensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, item 4.3, just the ANTS seawall and also the Harpia seawall. I see that you had to obtain a specialist ecological report and landscaping report, so that's actually gone to them, I gather. Yep. So no suggestion that the consent process will be held up for any other reason.
Not that we're aware of, no.
So once that's through, excuse me, once that's through, when would work likely to start on that?
So I suppose while we work through the process, we've put forward sort of conditions that we would like to see come out of that consent. It's not until that's formalised what conditions might be imposed in the future consent, which will then feed into a forward works program. But in the meantime, we'll just continue under the existing consent conditions and maintain it as those consent conditions. So I suppose we don't want to preempt renewal process, start doing work that may be different. There's no indication of that at this point. But
No, that's fine, thanks, mate.
that makes sense.
Yes, it
Yeah.
does, and I guess the same thing applies to the Carpia seawall as well.
Yeah, so the Carpia seawalls, their consent doesn't expire till 2029. Okay. But the funding we've got available for that work we're going to do with those sort of sits different to this, to the ATS.
And just one further question, is it intended to bring both of those consent renewal to the board, Carpia board?
Wasn't intended, no.
I just wondered whether they should be involved in the process considering it's within their boundary.
It's a good question, but I don't think we don't normally bring consent renewals in front of the council in that operation.
Oh, yeah, no, I wasn't
Matter,
suggesting so much the consent process, but just to sort of keep them up to date in terms of progress with how things are going.
Yeah, so
Yep.
in that, I imagine if that project kicks on with the Carpia area, there'll be regular updates, whether it be via this report or whether we do a scaled down report to the board. That's a possibility.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Williams.
Thank you, through your worship, Robbie. Just a general question around consents. We sort of alarm bells ring when a water consent is running out or lapsed. The general risk around, like, for example, that the sludge spreading and that one that's lapsed, are we at risk with the lapses or?
As long as we're maintaining good communications with the regional authority, and we have interim consents to cover until a new one's in place, then there's generally no risk with that.
Councillor Christensen.
I was just curious, what other alternative options are you investigating for that disposal of the sludge?
So that's sort of side project we've got going at the moment, and it's sort of part of the LTP as well around, which we might discuss later on around some more office space, etc. down there. So one of the options we've got is to take the backwash direct to the wastewater treatment plant via sewer main. So that's another option we're exploring. So we've sort of got two things at play here. One is to go back to putting the sludge up on the grassland. Or alternatively is to go back through the wastewater treatment plant.
Thanks, Mark. No further questions, Robbie?
So just one further point, if I may, your worship. Mark, would you be able to convey, the CAMEX, I thought, did an excellent job out at Carpia with the reticulation renewal program out there. And I think probably it wouldn't hurt to have that acknowledged in some way. So would you be able to say thank you on behalf of the community for the work that they did?
Sure, Robbie will be able to pass that on. He managed that project.
Love to.
Yeah, it's great to hear. Thanks, Chairman. We have the staff recommendation here that the Ōtorohanga District Council receive a report titled Capital Projects Report for the month ending 31st October 2023. Robbie Whitewood, Manager of Projects, Councillor Prendergast, Councillor Hughes, all in favour? Against, carried. Thanks, guys. Thanks, Rob. Item 97, Financial Report for the month ending 31st of October. Brendan, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. I won't go into huge detail as I normally do. I'll just sort of give you the highlights. In terms of our comprehensive revenue and expenses, our surplus to the end of October is about $400,000 up on budget. Most of that being in savings and expenditure as opposed to increased revenue. As you can see, the revenue is only about $27,000 under budget. It's a bit up and down there between subsidies and then other income, but it averages out to pretty close to budget. So most of the savings and the expenditures around employee benefit expenses. So we've got a few vacancies, as Tanya alluded to earlier, that we're still in the process of trying to fill, and just some general savings across all the various activities in terms of asset maintenance and operations and all the tiny little budgets that we may not have spent yet. Over the page, our balance sheet. So we're in a healthy position. We've got a working capital of $1.1 million at the end of October. Mostly due to, as I say, to the outstanding trade receivables being higher than the trade and other payables. Cash wise, it's not like we're holding a whole heap of money in the bank at the moment. So it's mostly around that receivables and payables as to why we've got that position there. And then in terms of our combined cost of service statement, so again, overall operating revenue is about 1.8 under budget, mostly in the other general sources, which is our internal charging. Again, that part of that relates to not having staff, but also just if there's reduced costs, for example, running this building or other things, then there's less overheads to on charge to other activities. So some of those savings in the previous thing in terms of expenses can be associated with overhead type stuff. So therefore it's not getting charged out at this point. For example, things like the audit fees haven't fully come through yet. We haven't been fully invoiced by Deloitte for the audit. So those costs, but we budgeted that we haven't all charged by now. So that has an impact as well. Excuse me. In terms of the capital, so our capital is about, or capital and loan repayments, sorry, it's about $100,000 over what we budgeted. As I said last time, this budget now includes all the carryovers that you approved in the September meeting, if I remember correctly. So those budgets are in here now. A lot of that has been front loaded because a lot of that stuff is carryover of existing work in progress. So those budgets have been loaded in based on when we think the predominantly the remainder of the spending for those carryovers will happen. And then obviously this year's stuff, we've done a bit of work to get some budget forecasting from particularly roading to try and get those budgets to better aligned when they think they're going to spend their money. So that's why it's 100,000. Previous months you might have seen a few $1 million difference. So that should hopefully continue to be that sort of close, unless there's significant variances for unforeseen reasons, I guess. And I guess that's it. So any questions?
Questions, councillors, as with any financial report, it's always timing, and this was the drafting of figures, and so we could end of the year, we'd see if it all adds up. Councillor Jeffries.
Thanks, Your Worship. Brendan, just one quick one. Under the combined cost of service statement, community development, I note there that the year-to-date actual is pretty much the full year budget. So is that indicating that there's no more expenditure that happened in that area, or are we over for some reason?
There may be some additional spending. So there's a couple of things in there. Part of it is Mayor's Task Force for Jobs in there, which wasn't budgeted when we did the annual plan, because we made sure we could actually have funding available. So we didn't budget for it. It's an in and out, so expenditure will be up. Income will be up as well, because we've got the money from DIA or NSD. So that's part of it. The other part is around the money that council gives to the OTTB. So historically, we've kind of paid that in quarterly or 6 monthly chunks. We've actually paid it more at the start of the year this time. But we're still, the budget is still based spread over the year. So the budget's slightly out there. That's something I picked up and fixed the budget on. So that's the other thing. So yeah, so the bulk of the expenditure is probably in there. There might be obviously the odd little thing, but yeah, the bulk of the expenditure I'd say is done. No.
Thank you, councillor Johnson.
Yeah, just with the first page and the subsidies and grants that communicate over budget, what things are included in that?
Yeah. So the bulk of that is subsidy from Wakakatahi for roading work. So just with some of the roading work, I guess, is happened a bit earlier. The big thing was the unsealed road meddling. A lot of that was finished. That whole project, I think, was finished by the end of October, which is probably slightly earlier than previous years. So we've been able to claim subsidy on that earlier than we would have in the past. And then possibly some other subsidies as well. I think there's also a bit in there from the better off funding. I think there might be a little bit of income in there as well from that. It's very reflected. Yeah.
Thanks, Brendan. Looks like councillor Jeffries is chomping at the bit again. No. Okay.
Just before we do you want to just talk about the debt situation?
Oh, yeah. So I guess, just to cover off debt. So, at the end of October, I'll just go to the balance sheet. We had borrowings showing at $6.4 million. When was it last week? Last week, we had to take another $3 million loan for cash flow purposes. This is partly due to the fact that there's been some delays in the development in terms of getting money back, just in terms of the process to issue the titles and then finalise the sales has taken a bit longer than was expected. So we're not expecting to get that money back until next month, probably mid-December at this point. So it's just a cash flow reason that we've taken an extra $3 million of loan debt on, which is due to be repaid in April, which is the same time that the loan that we took to fund development is due to be repaid at the same time. So come April, we'll do a whole process, Graham and I, and we'll talk to Stania about it and figure out how our longer term borrowing is at the moment. So at the moment, we're just doing short term stuff to get us through to then. Once we've got the money back from the development and we've paid that off and everything, then we'll have a better idea as to what our borrowings are going to look like. And obviously we'll have a long-term plan that will give us guidance as well as to what potential future borrowing we may need to take. And so we can do some forecasting as to terms and all that sort of stuff.
So council will recall when we presented our carryover report, that think we had, something like $10 million of carryovers. So, this is the impact of that we've now been completed. So, we've had to debt fund to accommodate that.
Just with the LGFA funding interest rates being over 5% now, that is incorporated into the extension of loan for the repayment from development.
Yeah, so the original, I think we went the 7% interest on that. So yes, we've got sufficient cover to cover that additional cost. I think what was the original 4 might have been about 4%. A while ago, it was about 8 months ago.
Yeah, so just on that, your worship, so in case they are also that original loan term with them was for 18 months, which ended mid-October. So he's we've been paying interest for an extended period of time as well. So at this stage, he's supplied a cash flow for us, which he had to supply to our auditors as well. And they met the audit annual report, which is looking at $3 million next month, and then a further $1 million next year.
Further, Brendan? Okay, thank you. So the staff recommendation that the Ōtorohanga District Council receive a report titled Financial Report for the month ending 30th October 2023 from Brendan. Moved. Second, Councillor Prendergast, all in favour? Carried. Thank you. Thanks, Brendan.
Thank you.
Okay, item 98, the annual satisfaction survey results. Nadia, please.
Kia ora, Your Worship, councillors. So for some of our councillors, this will be the first of the annual resident surveys presented to you, and it's the second in what will be an ongoing series of annual resident surveys. So although this is still new, we can start to see some of the trends coming through in the report. We've had a significant increase in participation for the general survey, so that's been up from 46 to 144, which makes me very pleased. Although the other 3 have had slight decreases, I'll address those shortly there. We will present the improvement plan details early next year, but within the report is noted some of the reoccurring themes that have come through in both years, along with staff comment to those. Overall, I think elected members and staff can be really pleased with the upward trending in satisfaction data. And I think it's testament to the focus that we've been going through, and not only the last long-term plan, but the current one that we're developing in terms of connecting with our community, building levels of trust and visibility. In terms of improvements to the response rates and the margin of error, this will continue to be a focus for us. So, as I mentioned earlier, we did have an increase in participation from the general survey. When it comes to the library, part of the change in, I guess, the margin of error has been an increase in active users. So an active user is those that have used the library in the last 2 years, and that's jumped up from, forgive me, 500 and something to 900 and something. So that's an amazing testament to our library staff. What we were remiss in doing this year with the library survey was pushing it directly to those active users. So when we do that next year, I think we'll see an improved margin of error there. We had a significant increase in the number of email recipients that we sent the iwi satisfaction survey to. However, we had about the same number of responses, or only a couple less than what we had last year. So that has affected the margin of error because the total pool that it got sent to was larger. We are doing a lot of engagement at the moment with specific groups, and that may contribute, but that's something that we need to dive into. with regard to the older person's housing, it's quite a small population number. So that means that we need the majority of them to complete the survey if we're going to get an accurate read in terms of that margin of error. But apart from that, I'm really happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Nadia. It's good to see there is no alignment with all the work that you and your team have been doing, and it wasn't going to be questions obviously asked. So in terms of the engagement with the likes of Phoebe, as you said, there's this small response here, so you just have a different approach to that next time.
Yeah, that's something that, along with Cassidy Whakawanga, we're going to need to probably unpack with those recipients to see if the group that we're sending it to is the right group and how we can get better engagement.
But overall, no, it's really good. It's nice reading. It's always kind of comforting when you see that there's an increased level of satisfaction with it's been done. So yeah, cool. Councillor Prendergast.
Through you, your worship. And Nadia, I was intrigued to see the ways that people wish to be communicated with. That's actually changed quite dramatically, hasn't it, in the last year? I don't think there was nearly as many that wanted to be communicated through Facebook. And there was a lot more, I thought, last year that wanted to read information through his neighbour, which I've quoted so many times.
Yes.
So,
Yeah,
that's
I think
changed my story.
Yeah, I think while Facebook's still a preferred method for a large portion of the community, I don't think we can lose sight that newspaper and print is still a very valid method for a portion of our community. I guess we've got to take this trend data with a bit of grain of salt. We only had 44 responses last year and 144 this year. So I think as the years progress, we'll be able to really dig into that trend and see if we're targeting in the right way.
Thank you, Councillor Christensen.
That was, really cool to read. I just want to say how excited I am that plant fruit trees and explore establishing a food forest and community garden got a mention.
I thought they were yours.
No, it's about getting out and talking to the community, and also exploring the outdoor gym equipment because I'm working on that too. So it's pretty exciting to see a couple of my little pet projects mentioned.
I think there are really strong links between a lot of between the various engagements that we're having with the community. So through the concept plans, through the surveys, through other engagement, you are seeing that continual trend of some specific requests from our community, such as the continued engagement, the ability or opportunity to increase activity and well-being.
Thank you. Councillor Williams.
Nadia, it was good to see the low level of low trust. And thinking about the presentation in the workshop this morning about their building trust, that sort of feels like we're ahead of the game, like building on it. But are we? And I guess we need it'll need the follow-up surveys to build on that. Do we get the people who don't trust us don't respond anyway? Are we sort of sitting in a bit of false positivity?
Yeah, I
do you
guess
think?
Yeah, through you, your worship. I suppose that's a hard one to answer potentially, but equally, I think the trend is people tend to fill out these surveys when they're dissatisfied. And what really came through, especially in that area, was in the comments was why they trusted us. And there was a lot of I've had good experiences with counsellors, I've had good experience with customer experience, with the outreach that we've been doing, some comments around why wouldn't I. So while you're right in terms of maybe we're bucking the national and global trend of trust bureaucracy or governments. I don't think we can rest on our laurels. I think it will only, it could be something very small that tips that, or a particular group that is well resourced to rock the boat there. So I think if we continue to build on what we're doing as a team, as that team of one, both elected members and councillors, then hopefully you're right, we can stay ahead of that.
Thanks, Nadia. I'm looking forward to next year now. It's like you won a lot of results, you just want to keep on moving on.
Just on that, through you, your worship, just picking up on Kathy's comment. So at what point do we start including trend data so that we don't all have to sit here and go, what did this look like last year again? You know, like, are we at a point, and it might not be everything in here, but there might be some key things that we all agree trend data would be really useful to start including, but I don't know if that's connected to margin of error or not when you start.
Yeah, we've shown, I guess, in some areas we've shown that trend data in terms of satisfaction levels, but we can definitely take that a step lower. I can do some comparisons for you and bring that back to council when we do the when I bring back the improvement plan. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffries.
Yes, just being a little bit cynical here, these surveys aren't auditable, are they?
Some of the measures in there are because they're in our annual, they're in our KPI, like our LTP, non-financial performance measures. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I guess, it's just thinking about silly, I suppose, but I'm just saying that I hope that Deloitte's are not going to come in and start auditing all this and charge
No.
Yeah.
They've already audited the ones we put in the annual report.
Good.
We have to signal which ones that are part of that audit process.
Yeah, good. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, through your worship. No, it's the older person survey is, so I mean, that was the communication with them. I mean, it's such a small number. Is there merit in perhaps next year individually going around personally? A lot of older people like to be, person to person. So perhaps conducting the survey in a way where you have a person show up their door and go through the survey with them, because it's not such a huge number. I don't know whether it's is that viable or not really, so that you can get a better number.
Yeah, we would get a better number. I guess the direction would need to be given by the governance group. So if you think there's value in having every single person, every single tenant fill out a survey and you give us that direction, then we will find a way of making that happen. But it will require resourcing.
Yes,
on
I understand that, but I'll just say that
so
it would be viable to do an option, because the numbers aren't high, as you stated in the report, and not a lot of them. So perhaps there's some merit in that. Then you get a really accurate sort of feedback, and can increase those numbers nicely, wouldn't it? So.
I think what was interesting comparing last year's survey to this year's survey is that a lot of the freeform areas where we asked what could be improved were service request level, not really, I guess, high trend level. Which is interesting.
Thank you. There's no further questions. We have the staff recommendation that Ōtorohanga District Council received a report titled 22-23 Annual Satisfaction Survey Results. Nadia. We have a second with Councillor Johnson, second with Councillor Tamaki. All in favour? Against? Thanks, Nadia. Moving on to item 99. To what presentation? Was that this afternoon? Okay, sorry everyone, that's at 1 o'clock, not now.
So we've got Te Waka here at 1. So we will move on to councillor updates and the resolution register. We'll adjourn the meeting and we'll do CE alone time and then come back, have lunch and then reconvene. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Williams, what have you been up to?
Following you around the countryside. I've been a couple of good opportunities with rural and provincial and the future by local government in Wellington, and also the Zone 2 on Friday. And just to get background from other councils and council elected members on the issues that are in front of us at the minute. It's been very good. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Councillor Christensen.
Off the top of my head, nothing. I think I've
I think you've planted
done
a few
some
more plants.
workshops and just working away on planting little pockets around town and seeing if anyone notices.
I noticed. Thank you. Welcome, Councillor Dow. What have you been up to?
I went to a regional transport committee the other week, which is basically their long-term plan setting. But the interesting thing is, I don't know how we get on it, but basically there's not really any money allocated for our area. That's all. It's only a wish list at this stage, so it's nothing definite, but the bulk of the funding that we're supposedly have our part to play on giving out is going around the Coromandel, because obviously they've been devastated. So that's where the need is, and it's more about resilience nowadays. Well, other years it's been about economic development. So, but so basically the good chunk of the money is going to there. I tried to get some for Carfield Road, but don't know how we're getting that. Apart from that, went to economic wellbeing, not whatever it was here. Another meeting for another plan, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's interesting how they focus with the regional funding for transport. Road transport was all about the expressway when I was on the committee, and then obviously the expressway is done now. Well, most of it. And now obviously TCDC is the big focus. Councillor Hughes.
Your Worship, thank you. Had a risk insurance meeting back on the 26th of October, then that was followed by we had the WMP workshop in the morning of the 31st before we had an extra ordinary council meeting to adopt some recommendations from the Risk Insurance Committee on bits and pieces there. And unfortunately, our community board meeting was cancelled this month, and we had organised a trip to the water treatment station to see Mark's fine treatment station, but that got canned too because I think everybody pulled out. So, but other than that, there hasn't been a lot happening on my department.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffries.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yes, we had 19th of October, there was a housing committee meeting attended by Zoom. 24th of October was a workshop here. 25th of October was the Infometrics presentation here, which was really quite interesting. 26th of October, we had a meeting with Tainui Kawhia Incorporated about their concerns about the fire risks out of the Kawhia forest, and that was followed by the Risk Insurance Committee meeting. 31st of October, we had a council workshop, which was followed by the extraordinary meeting to adopt the annual report. On Sunday, the 5th of November, I attended the rededication of Waipapa Marae, which was a dawn service, and there were a number of people there. It was led primarily by Liz Seymour and Dallas. 7th November, we had the Ngāti Wahi presentation here. 14th November, co-design workshop in the Kawhia Hall, which was, I have to say, was really well organised, and I compliment the staff on that. And also, it was well patronised too. We had some good feedback, I believe, on that. And so it'll be interesting to see what comes back out of that. And on the 15th of November, we had another workshop here. So that was pretty much my month. Thank you.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Been to the majority of, well, I think all of the workshops that we've had on, so I won't go over those, but Just in addition, I've been to the State of Sport and Auto meeting, which is with Councillor Tamaki, so that was put an appearance there. Also went to the Thrive AGM, and that was, I haven't been to one of those before. That's sure it's interesting too, and you know, the struggle for leadership of that organisation. So that was good. Always have a monthly meeting of BT Home. Don't normally bring it up, except that BT Home is in such a good place at the moment. We've got full occupancy, and been the first time we've had full occupancy for quite some time. And we also have a new manager, and you know, I also attend the health and safety meetings there monthly, and the mood of the staff is just so good at the moment. We're struggling like council going through audit, and requires extra funding, extra time, and a huge effort by the office staff, but everything has clicked into place so well down there at the moment, so we're really thrilled with how it's going. And other than that, Councillor Dow and I are organising a truck and ute show for the 24th of February. So write that all down in your diaries, everybody, right now, 24th of February. And we want all the promotion we can get. Shameless promotion as it is at a council meeting. But this is funded by the Ōtorohanga District Council. And we also have some funding from the Ōtorohanga Charitable Trust for some children's play area to try to attract children. This is a free community event, and yeah, just to help with the vibrancy of the town. And yeah, Rodney and we're onto it. So we'll see you all there on the 24th of February.
Nice, thank you. Councillor Prendergast.
Thank you, Your Worship. On the 25th of the 10th, the ODD breakfast, and then the IOD strategy course, which was very good. 26th of the 10th, the risk and assurance. 3rd of the 11th, the rural and provincial LGNZ. That I'll just ditto Councillor Williams' comments on both that and Zone 2. On the 13th of the 11th, the economic wellbeing strategy update with Carol. That was an introduction to where we're going with that, and it was really good to just have a chat and get into the where we're heading. On the 15th of the 11th, the co-design workshop, which I found very interesting and really nice to be here amongst the community. And then the 17th of the 11th, Zone 2 LGZ.
Thank you. Councillor Tamaki.
Right, where do I start? So crazy busy, but that's right. So been to most of the workshops, even the multi-purpose arts and cultural facility thingy Bobby, the sports thingy my Bobby, and parks reservation management hui that was actually was really cool. Was really interesting to listen to. Rural and provincial in Wellington, then flew, which was cool because we did the tiriti in a workshop. And the framework to do those workshops was fish bowling, which was real cool. We should try it at council one day. Came home and went to prize giving for Te Wharekura o Maniapoto. We've lost one of our pou tikanga me ngā reo in the iwi. Nani Miria Tauriki, so that was a huge tangi. And the process to have someone fit her pathway going forward after all the mahi she's done over 65 years of rauoro reo o Maniapoto within the kingitanga is a little bit daunting for all of us. So yeah, that'll start in the next week or two. Attended the 21st celebration for Pirungia Te Aroaro Ōkahu thing with Councillor Williams, which was real cool. The presentation from Ngāti Te Wehi, and that I've had a kōrero with them too, and that's moving along really well. in terms of their space and going to the hearings. So that's been really cool. Attended a hui in Kawhia around framing up some stuff for localities for Taharoa. I know Taharoa and Marokupa aren't in our region with Kawhia, but again, just the cultural significance of that we are the same people. So that's looking at starting up in the next week or so and working with the local GP, so Dr. John Burton, and others that have some skill to bring them home into the community, especially in Kawhia. So it will be hubbed out of Kawhia, which is again down there, listening to the presentation today from Tanya about partnering up with whoever's coming into our rohe to help, make our rohe the best. What else have I done? I went to the reopening of Miru Park, so out at Marokupa. And that was really cool. Again, not in our region, but actually making partnerships with the people that live in our rohe. Had a Zoom hui with Māngai Māori, so all of them, or whoever is sitting in a Māori seat in council through Aotearoa, we have this little like hui once a month. And some of that stuff is around consistency. So what are we as Māori wards putting into our councils? And one of the things that keeps coming up is consistency in participation, in narratives, and in mannerisms of how we build better capability for them to interact with Māori. So that it's not, so that our aspirations, and I'm always grateful for Councillor Christensen when we are one people, and we are. And some of that one people comes from aspiration. So trying to build some of that aspiration in terms of our practice. So that's our Māngai Māori. Tended the economic wellbeing strategy hui, which is really cool because it wasn't about the money, which is what you normally go to when you hear economic well-being. So that was really cool. It was around sustainability. It was around capacity. It was lots of things. It wasn't just the money. Attended a hui, some wind farms, and the commissioner, he was awesome. He might want to be in Parliament, he'd be now what he is. So, but yeah, he was really good, and I think a good outcome's going to come in terms of the opposing and for the wind farms out at the coastal ends, which Kawhia will probably benefit off somehow. Went to a kaumātua day, which was really cool to see all our kaumātua out, and getting told, no, my rent's going up, all of those things. So that's another way we can possibly interact with our older generation, is that they do have these days. We need to get the people who are organising them to get us there. The health forum that was run, we had one here earlier in the year, and then there was another one held in Te Witi. Some awesome outcomes coming out of there in terms of minimising the hoha services that aren't being used. So highlighting some of those services that aren't being used, that are just sitting there collecting dust like folders on the wall, and ramping up what it looks like for us as a communal space. Attended so marae are now taking on some of that resilience in terms of building their capacity to be able to open their doors in terms of crisis. And so what it did show in the crises that we've had is that lots of them don't have the facility to cope with, in terms of lots of people, yes, but only a little amount of people, no. So they, a lot of our marae have been running market days to try and engage more whānau to come back to the marae and stuff. So they had one out of Parure, had awesome kai. Been doing some PLD with Te Kuti High School and Ōtorohanga College around cultural capability. Got some really cool stuff for us to do with elected members. It'll be fun. It's around waiata, it's around pepeha, it's around all sorts. And really cool space that you could take home and learn and carry on doing without feeling, what are those things? the dummy guy, because even I was like, oh yeah, I didn't know that. And a really cool comment that I got when I was in, just to finish off, when I was in Whakatane, was Tania had said she always would have loved to see a fleet of cars at kaupapa, that people could, see us out there and being visible, creating that trust. So in Whakatane, no one knew where to go to at the marae. Me and Councillor Huaki, which is in Kirikiriro, we were the first to the marae. Because they saw the car, they all knew exactly where to go. And they ran around the corner thinking it was Max, but it wasn't. So that was another awesome thing. And again, it happened the following day when we went to council. So we were given these rules, and like all of us, no one listens. And so they don't know where we're supposed to park. Not that I listened, but I just saw a girl on the side of the road staring at us. So I went and parked, and then everyone knew exactly where to park. So Angela O'Leary was like, thank you for listening to my thing, but no one really listened. They just saw our car. But comments from Hamilton, Te Awamutu, or Waipa, Waitomo, Whakatane, who else commented? How awesome our cars look. The team's commented, yep, yeah, awesome to see the car. And I said to them, your fella's logo is awesome. That's not a logo, it's a branding. But I said, don't ask me the difference. I said, I'll give you the email of the lady, which is Nadia Gower, and she'll be able to tell you exactly what we do around logoing and branding. So, yeah, I've had an awesome month, or a little bit over a month, and I look forward to all the dates coming up for next year. So, mauri ora.
Awesome, thanks, Councillor. Cool. Okay, moving on to other business, which is our resolution register.
Yes, through you, your worship. It's something I prepared earlier. Thanks, Kai. So we've got quite a few that we're recommending come off the register. So I caught up with Andrew about road naming policy, and he's quite far advanced with that, but he wants to take it through community boards first. So we just need to kind of time that. So we've recommended that comes off. But happy.
It does come off.
Yeah, but if you would prefer to leave it on until you actually see a draft naming policy, then I'm happy, but I can assure you that it is underway. The work is underway there. And then we've got 4 other ones at the bottom of page. I've got 8 on here, but I haven't got the page cut off. So yeah, sorry, I don't want to read it all out. So 126, 127, 128, 135 come off. And then we've got speed management, the draft interim speed management plan coming to the December meeting, focused on schools and marae, as instructed by the resolution. And then we've still got the council solicitor working on the lease with the Ōtorohanga Support House. And I think Graham and Nikki were down there yesterday afternoon meeting with the new manager.
Yeah, thanks, Tanya. Yeah, so I guess just while we review the property roll-offs, sort of tried to progress some of these things. So Nikki and I had a meeting yesterday with Adele and Dot, who's the new manager. So I've instructed told Mark Jarrod to go down and do a condition assessment down there of the building, just sort of get a record of chattels and things, and just had a general look around with Nikki. So this morning I've emailed Kelly Miles to sort of start putting together just a draft lease agreement, which we'll need to probably bit of toing and throwing, particularly until we get the Vero report and just get an understanding of what we're going to do in that space. But we're certainly progressing things anyway. So.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffries.
Oh, thanks, your worship. Yeah, I think C32 should stay until we've got that review completed and C126, I'm quite happy for it to come off, but I'm just interested to know, was the road inspected after the event? There was no damage, I assume they've got their bond back. That was the.
No, sorry, Mark, just the
That
new
was-
Tanui Hill climb was road inspected after the event.
So, for the sealed road events, we don't take a bond. It's only the metal road ones generally, and I'm not sure if our team have been back out there, but they did do a previous, prior inspection, and I assume there'll be an inspection afterwards, but I can't confirm that, sorry, councillor.
I think we can be pretty much assured that those people that are against the event would have been inspecting the road and coming back to us should there have been any issues.
Through you, Worship, sorry, Kai's just reminded me that Andrew will be workshopping the road naming policy with both the boards and council together at the workshop on the 29th.
So we'll leave them there at the moment. We won't take that,
Yeah.
but cool. Okay, so we have resolution here that the Ōtorohanga District Council confirmed the removal of resolutions C126, 127, 128 and 135 from the register. I'd like to move that. Second, councillor Johnson, all in favour? Against, carried. Thank you. So as a consequence with that, we're done pretty much with the agenda, so we're going to adjourn the meeting now. So over the adjourn the meeting, second, councillor Johnson. And we're going to see alone time. And then I've just got a couple of things to talk about, and then we'll have some Kai and come back to it.
Yeah, so
Cool.
just, if we can just have
Good to go to everybody. Good everybody back. Don't fall asleep. It's just after lunch. But you won't because it's an exciting presentation by Te Waka. So just like to reconvene the meeting and I'd like to welcome Fiona Carrick from Te Waka. I believe Michelle Hollins is online and Nadia, over to you.
Thank you, Your Worship, stealing all my words I have written down here. So we've got Michelle Hollins online. As you're as you're aware, ORDDB are funded by council and act as our EDA. So they have the primary relationship with Te Waka, which is highlighted in the report within the agenda. And Michelle attends their bi-monthly meeting every 2 weeks in the sense, 2 months in the sense, regional hui. One job. No. Okay, so the point of having Michelle attend this as well is that if there's any sort of curly questions, I guess that you have for staff rather than Fiona here, then Michelle might be in a better place to answer those. So other than that, if there's no questions of the report that I've written that's in the agenda, I will pass over to Fiona.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for having me this afternoon, and I have got the what's known as the graveyard shift in meetings, which is just after lunch where we physiologically sort of go into a slump. So I won't take up too much of your time. Thank you so very much for having me today. Very much to give you an update on the regional economic picture and some of the things and changes we have made as a regional economic development agency over the last year and what we're looking at in terms of the future. So let me try this. That worked. So over the last year, we have very much focused on a very tight work program around delivering value for the region. We have adopted a focus on 3 growth industries, predominantly agriculture, renewable energy, logistics and distribution, and a cross-cutting theme of all of those is technology. We have supported securing, it's actually $17.4 million. It's been updated since this slide from the Kanoa Regional Strategic Partnerships Fund. And we've also been able to attract and facilitate circa 100 million over the next 5 years in renewable energy feasibility investment. So those are those investments that take place to work through the feasibility of various renewable energy projects across the region. But there are still significant challenges for our region, and we're very much looking at that regional economic picture, not as much the local business development area. That's where the likes of your economic development board come in and play a role, and we work in unison. Whilst we still maintain a strong fundamental around agricultural sectors contribution to GDP, I think Ray had the pleasure of last week hearing me speak in depth to the agricultural economy at a rural professionals event. We are still facing some challenges. Productivity has dropped significantly. Whilst we're not too far off the average, the challenges we have around youth not in employment or training is growing, and whilst it is a challenge now, it's also a significant challenge for the future. The September quarter results are such that we have now moved above the New Zealand average. That is not a positive outcome for us. And for the first time in a long time, we've seen a significant increase in the 19 to 24 age group. That potentially is a result of the challenges of working through secondary high school through to tertiary education during COVID, and we're seeing a number of rangatahi and youth not pursuing vocational training past a year or university training past a year. So they are moving out of the education system or the tertiary education system. In terms of investment in regional economic development, obviously we are an independent EDA. We are not a CCO. We are very cognizant and respectful of the investment from the regional council and the various district councils, including yourselves. We also do benefit from a significant amount of value in kind to ensure that we can deliver our programs of work. So as I said, our programs of work are very much focused on investment attraction, where we can grow industry for the region and where we can provide intelligence and insight on particular areas. That may be a submission on the energy market consultation, which we have done recently. New Zealand's energy market is going to go through significant change over the next 3 to 5 years. It may be the piece of work we publish on paving the way to a regional agreement. Now, that may not be a regional agreement, it may be several regional agreements. We also play a role in Future Proof, where we provide an economic overlay around some of those key macroeconomic drivers. These are some examples of a few events. Agribusiness Seminar is in partnership with KPMG and BNZ, where we bring the agribusiness agenda every year to the region for the region. This is where large players in industries have invested in partnerships with Te Waka, and by that I mean it's value in kind, it's not a sponsorship, to enable our region's competitive advantages to be amplified. We also have had numerous engagements with the Infrastructure Commission, and when I say we invite industry leaders to these events to discuss the challenges at a regional and local level. In terms of the pictures on the right, bottom right is the UK-British trade envoy, and the FTA agreement is significant for our region, particularly with the tariffs abating off over time. We were fortunate to exclusively host the UK trade envoy prior to the field days and during the field days to facilitate engagement with those particular industries and businesses that could gain from the new parts of the FTA. The top picture is members of the executive team of the Treasury of New Zealand. They came to the region in late September. We provided them with some feedback around where our region is sitting, the key challenges around the stability in the agricultural sector in terms of access to capital. We also spoke around housing, and that was a partnership with Waikato Pacific Business Network. They also did some specific tours around Pacifica businesses, affordable housing projects, etc. So that's an example of, I can put some words on a slide and say, here's what we've done, but this is actually some tangible outcomes for the region. So in terms of overall investment that has been attracted over probably the last 4 to 5 years from Kanoa, which is a key strategic partner, you can see that the Waikato's done quite well. Approved funding was 290 million in total, 290.3. Obviously not all of that has been paid out yet. The role Te Waka plays most significance in is the Regional Strategic Partnership Fund. That's 17.4 million. And that is very much a investment committee approach, where projects are assessed and for their value, not just to the region, but their value to the criteria that Kanoa have set up. The difference between the Regional Strategic Partnership Fund and the Provincial Growth Fund, it is one's in a maturity of the other, is it is predominantly co-funding. It's not just a grant. So these are established businesses. There is quite significant thresholds to align. And that is something that we have set up a review committee with a number of stakeholders from across the region. Unfortunately, I don't have exact detail of exactly what was paid out to where, but I'm sure from a council point of view, you'd be very au fait with any of the shovel-ready funding that you received. So that's just an example. Again, what we have received investment in is very much aligned to what our competitive advantages are as a region. I appreciate this is a bit blurry. This is publicly available information on Kanoa. This is not something secret that we keep. So if you do want a slightly clearer version, feel free to have a look. It is important to note also that in terms of our Regional Strategic Partnership Fund review group, that was somewhat unique in terms of its structure. Obviously, it was imperative, and it goes without saying, that iwi were a part of this, alongside bringing in some government agencies as well to ensure we aligned. As I said, looking forward, our opportunity remains in logistics and distribution, and it's a lot more than just Ruakura Super Hub, even though that is significant in terms of the impact for the region. By our very natural location, there are a lot of competitive advantages for what we can do and how we can grow. Obviously, underlying all that is enabling infrastructure. In terms of agriculture, there's no point in not pointing out we're facing some significant headwinds. However, we do have significant opportunities in agri-tech and a lot of opportunity in terms of engagement across the various networks in terms of agriculture. Renewable energy, I've touched on, it is obviously significant for our region in terms of our economy transitioning and becoming an energy exporter. In advanced manufacturing and technology are cross-cutting themes across all of those. In terms of upcoming priorities and events, obviously we're not naive to the fact that you are knee-deep in long-term planning. It is probably the most challenging long-term planning cycle Aotearoa has ever gone through. We have just finished our second business sentiment survey, the results of which will be out in 2 weeks' time, give or take. Specifically from an Ōtorohanga point of view, there was an opportunity if a respondent clicked that their business was from Ōtorohanga, they then were diverted off to go into a draw that Michelle can talk more to that as to how that's going to be managed. We have improved waikato.com. The toolkit on waikato.com has over 1,000 registered users. That's free marketing material, pictures that businesses can use. We continually engage with workforce development. We are always focused on investment attraction, whether that be private, philanthropic, or from central government. And we do also focus a lot on regional advocacy in terms of particular markets. So whether it be the energy market or whether it be particular coordinated voices from the Waikato. And then just briefly, obviously there's always numbers behind everything we do. There is regional economic priorities. We certainly didn't establish these alone. We worked with the New Zealand government, we worked with Kanoa, we worked with Future Proof, we worked with district councils to establish the 6 key areas that we see as an opportunity for the region, but also that we want to sustain for the region. And we included in this foray enablers, key enablers, which are enabling infrastructure, skills in education and affordable housing. This is just a pure reflection. It's a set of statistics of how the region currently invests in our 6 priorities. I'm not here to speak on behalf of any other organisations. It is purely a set of information. And I will leave it there. Apologies if I spoke too fast, but I was trying to keep it peppy after lunch.
Good work. Thanks, Fiona. Hey, just probably a question for Michelle, really, is in terms of the business sentiment survey, Michelle, did you approach our businesses to participate in that prior to the survey being introduced, or is that could be a question for you too?
Yeah, Max, so that survey's been going for a number of years now, and it goes out via Te Waka, but we also email it to our database. So we have close to 300 businesses on our database, and we just have always run a prize draw so that it encourages them to be involved. I think per head of population, Ōtorohanga has probably one of the best return rates for the survey. Fiona, would that be quite fair?
Yeah, I can't speak for the most recent one because I haven't looked at it, but yes, you do. You have a higher percentage than most.
Yeah.
So it did, so when we launched our survey, it went to over 10,000 in the region. It then gets cascaded through our partners, so either the Chambers, Business New Zealand, EMA, various rural networks, etc. So it's highly likely that most would be aware of it. And it is very much a Waikato business sentiment survey. So I'd be disappointed if people didn't know about it. But at the same time, we've got to balance not bombarding everybody.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Fiona. Councillor Prendergast.
Fiona, just a question on the focus on the agribusiness sector, for example, and doing just a little bit more of a deep dive into like, do you focus on the agribusiness professionals, or how does it filter down to grassroots? Is really my question.
So in terms of grassroots, predominantly we would liaise with the likes of Fed Farmers, Dairy NZ, Dairy Women's Network, who have those regional champions. We're not about to duplicate those networks that are already set up. So our engagement is very much around those macro market signals. Obviously, the cost of farming and the challenges. Mental health's another area where we've tried to raise voices around that, and also been very clear in our engagement with central government about what some of the challenges are, or what some of the levers are that could be pulled to work in partnership with agriculture. And I'm not just talking dairy, I'm talking all types, to enable optimization of productivity without increasing impact. It could also be a conversation around, and it has been a conversation around the NPS on highly fertile land. So we have had numerous conversations with that, and Te Waka didn't submit, but we did endorse some other submissions because of significant impacts for some of our districts, Matamata Piako, particularly Ōtorohanga, and some others. So we can provide a localized lens to a macro market challenge. Now, whether that challenge is regulatory, whether it is just sentiment, or whether it's actually production based. So that's how we focus. But happy to hear from anyone in the agricultural industry at any time. Unfortunately, I have a bit of a bias to that sector. So.
Councillor Jeffries.
Thanks, Your Worship. Fiona, thanks for your presentation. It was very interesting. Thanks. Yeah, I just saw a statistic recently, which I was really quite intrigued with, and it was something to do with, and I didn't go down into the detail, but it was something like the arts communities and organisations throughout the country, which I assume would include filmmakers, actually generate more revenue for the country than the dairy farms, which I found quite staggering. But I just wondered whether in this report here, attract, retain and grow investment talent business, is there any emphasis, what is the emphasis that you guys put on the arts side of things? And can you just comment on that?
Sure, absolutely.
Yep.
So obviously the economic development is a significant ecosystem. The word economic doesn't actively exclude creativity or arts. So, but I do think as a nation, we tend to think it's an either or. It's actually a convergence of both. So along with our partnerships with Creative Waikato, in terms of we stay connected with what their focuses are on, I'm not sure, I would have to look that statistic up. Revenue wise, possibly, I wouldn't have thought return of actual economic activity and value, it would be the same. And that is often something that we see in statistics. Yeah. However, we do engage and partner with the likes of Creative Waikato, Community Waikato, any sort of local level significant community engagement where there's an opportunity for economic investment in creative outcomes or artistic outcomes. So, but again, not to duplicate what is already existing. Sure. I can't speak to the screen. There is an entity called Waikato Screen funded by the regional council, but I can't speak to their specific revenues, etc. Similarly, when those entities may be looking for funding from Ministry of Culture or Heritage or the likes, they will often come to Te Waka looking for where does it fit, and is there a layer of support available or things like that.
Sure.
So yeah, so that's how we operate.
And just one other quick question, probably a dumb one, but 5.5 of the contract agreement says that Taupo doesn't make any financial contribution to your costs. Why? Why is that?
That was the 2021 agreement. They do now.
They do now?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And the why I'd have to refer you to Taupo.
Oh, right. Yeah, I just wondered why they got away with it, that's all.
Yeah, I think we've got to remember Taupo District Council straddles 4 regions.
Yeah.
So they've been pulled in 4 directions
Yeah.
to
That would make
contribute
sense.
to different agencies.
That would make
Yeah.
sense.
And I think
Yeah.
they chose to control their own destiny.
Yes, they did. They set up Amplify, but we have a very good arrangement with Amplify, and that has changed since then.
Cool. Thank you.
So Fiona, with the Waikato investment in the economic, or EDA.
Yeah.
Is significantly less than the rest of New Zealand, has been since the inception of Te Waka. Why?
I
Sorry,
can't
nobody dro-
answer.
So 2 pointers.
Look,
question,
yeah, no, the reality is, economic development in Aotearoa is invested in predominantly, by regional councils and district councils. Priority 1 and Te Waka are the only 2 that are independent business-led organisations. And I think that is the reflection of why the funding for those 2, ourselves included, is significantly less than elsewhere. On average, it's around $4 to $5 per capita. I also think Waikato as a region has been a victim of its own success. We have always been the economic engine room of Aotearoa, and we've just delivered and delivered. So the economic development piece, the long-term macro market piece, which is now a huge need. There's never been a more important time to be informing those policymakers and lawmakers of what strengthens us for the future in terms of market dynamics and market changes than now, whereas historically that need hasn't been there as much. So that sort of has been, I believe, the reason investment has not been as critical, because there hasn't been the need for a voice around what RMA does to one of our most fundamental economies or the like. And I'm not dishing the RMA, but that need was not necessarily there historically.
Hi Fiona, how are you? Just a question about what emphasis Te Waka puts on like the climate change narrative, because when you look at those 3 main industries, the logistics, the agribusiness and manufacturing, that's probably the 3 biggest emitters in the country. So, what part does that play in your strategies?
Huge. And unfortunately, so if you have a chance, because I know you don't get much to read as councillors, our annual snapshot or our quarterly update. So each of those priorities has a definition, and what in each is the sustainability element. So yes, we are unfortunately the country's largest emitter by us as a region by a long shot. We engage with ECA, we advocate for it through many of our submissions. We've also been a voice at the table around the Regional Council's Climate Action Plan and how a plan needs to integrate with industry to enable change. It's not just all about funding. And also the focus on renewable energy, we see ourselves moving away from just a food basket economy to an add-on of being a renewable energy exporter. We still are the only region with water, geothermal, onshore wind and potentially offshore wind, and unfortunately a little bit of coal in there. But when you look forward to the demand need, if we do move to hydrogen, that actually requires huge amounts of electrification. So that our whole approach around the energy market consultation, again, in partnership with iwi, being open across the rohe around what we're looking to do long term, is very much aligned with our sustainability goals to get us at pace to a lower emissions economy. Oh no, Roy, look out. You asked me a question on Thursday.
You know, I did there last week at a just a rural agri professionals breakfast, and that's when you were focusing more on the agri, and I just asked the question about affordable housing for start for provincial towns, that sort of thing. But anyway, easier question today. And that question is just with regarding the we pay a minute $10,000 towards Te Waka in the Waikato, and part of that council funding is that where does that go to, and or do you have other income streams for Te Waka?
So I think it's the final slide or second to last slide. Our predominant income, like in terms of revenue income streams for our operating costs, is from TLAs and the regional council. And then for our programs of delivery, that's where we seek funding from alternative sources. So whether that be partnerships to deliver events, whether it be value in kind, whether it be actually from the likes of Trust Waikato, Well Energy Trust, for specific programs of work, like the website, for intelligence updates. We've got a partnership with Infometrics, NZIER, that type of thing. So that's how we're not a membership-based entity, and we're very much in the economic development piece. In terms of the contribution, don't underestimate the quantum of it, to how important it is to have a regional voice across New Zealand. And in this environment, being an economic development agency, it would be somewhat oxymoronic to ask for more, because there are so many challenges in terms of a cost of living crisis, inflation, and what local government is facing. It would not align with economic principles to be asking for more.
Good answer. So when Shane Jones comes along and says the Provincial Growth Fund, will Te Waka be leading the application charge next time?
I think Matua Shane has somewhat actually, let me rephrase that. I think if there is a PGF 2.0, there are some significant learnings from PGF 1.0 in terms of funding for prosperity long term. And I did not say that. And utilising tried and tested economic principles, which include social infrastructure, arts outcomes, in what it is, as opposed to a rush to application. And I think you've seen the start of that structure with the Strategic Partnership Fund, and taking this is not our money, taking a real rigid investment type approach, investment portfolio approach to that investment. Well, one thing that would be good is for it to be devolved to the regions more. And that's not to say give the regional EDAs money, but for it to be devolved more.
Michelle, have you got any questions or anything you want to add?
Yeah, thanks, Max. I mean, Fiona, probably the biggest challenge as the local EDA is understanding and knowing when the different government agencies release funding for different programs. So that probably the most recent that we have applied funding for was the Innovation Fund from HUD for housing support. Is Te Waka in a position to play a role that it can sort of support the dissemination of information, I guess, when the different agencies release funds that could be of interest to the Ōtorohanga district? Because we're not always ready for all of those funds, but it certainly would be helpful to be able to see the pipeline of them and and be able to know what we should be applying for?
That's not, so yes, when we are aware of intention to set up funding or funds, absolutely, we provide that information. The MHUD one, again, not looking to replicate or duplicate other organisations that have been invested in by councils. That's something that ideally would come through Waikato Housing Initiative or the like. It's not something that we would be aware of. We would become aware of it after it's been released. In terms of any central government agency information that is pertinent to the region, we release it as soon as we get it. But in general, there is not a staggered approach. So they don't give it to EDAs and then say sit on it for a week and then give it out. It is generally released at all times. So yes, we do play that role now. And happy to send things through when we hear of them. And we generally do. There was a forestry one recently. Obviously, we played a significant role in the business assistance fund for Cyclone Gabriel. It was initially only for Thames Coromandel. We worked closely with TCDC to ensure that they didn't get eroded, but that it covered the whole of the region. And so that increased significantly. So take it on board, Michelle, but yeah, we do play that role, but we are not a funding agency, and it can get quite confusing that when we release that information, we then get requests to fill out funding applications. That's not Te Waka's role.
Thank you.
Any further questions, councillors? Thanks, Fiona, and probably back to Councillor Johnson's point. I mean, $10,000 doesn't seem like a lot of money, but I suppose we've always asked the question, what do we get in return, or where it's Ōtorohanga seeing on the map when we're obviously putting money out there. So thank you. Wonderful presentation, and good luck.
Thanks. I'll see you next Monday.
Thank you, councillors. We have a staff recommendation here that the Ōtorohanga District Council receive the report titled 2023 Te Waka presentation from Nadia, in this case from Fiona. Moved Councillor Jeffrey, second Councillor Dow. All in favour? Carry. Thank you. As there is nothing further, can I ask Councillor Tamaki to participate to address us with the closing karakia?
Kia tata katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou ari kia ukaraiti, me te aroha o te atua, me te whiwhinga taitanga, te wairua tapu, ake, āmene.
Declare the meeting closed. Thank you. Now we have a stretch.